Hey, what's going on? Today, we are bringing you how to get your shit together as an operator on the Integrated Entrepreneur. Keith, big dog, what is going on?
Listen, we got to get these people shit together, right?
I
That
hear you.
is that is the pressing one thing that we need to get across today.
Yeah.
But what is going on is it's Monday. It's been an absolute shit show since I walked into the office today. I think less than 10 minutes in, I wanted to flip my desk over and walk home. Like, just go home, start over tomorrow. So,
Yep. We've all had
but
those.
yeah, man, everything's going on. Back in the office from 2 weeks of travel and speaking, and the whole
Playing
nine
catch
yards,
up.
dude. How you doing?
Look, dude, I'm great. Took the boys glamping or camping this weekend. Had a blast.
What do you
And
got,
just
like a
like you,
300 foot RV that you drive around the country in, or
no. Just a tent.
a tent with an air conditioning in it?
Yes, there was AC in it.
Right.
That didn't
It's
help with the
Florida.
bugs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Florida, and it's not cool at night, other than like last night for some crazy reason.
Yeah. Why
Where'd
don't
you guys
we
go?
called Westgate. It was pretty solid.
Nice.
Why don't we go over like the top things that we see people not have together, right? Like
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, one of the biggest things that I see when clients are coming in for financing is not actually knowing where their credit is. Okay? And I'm going to tell you that will kill you. Not it might not be today, but when you need it, when you absolutely need to get financing and you don't know where your credit is, that's when it's going to bite somebody in the ass. Here's a perfect example of this. Today, I monitor my credit on Credit Karma. By the way, guys, if you are listening to this, Credit Karma is always wrong. So don't go off it. The only reason why I use Credit Karma is it will tell you when there's changes. So I logged in today because I'm neurotic with this, and I always like to know this. And I had a 50-point drop on one of the bureaus. I looked at it to try to figure out, hey, why is this here? Well, guess why it was there? It was there because on my real estate line of credit, they're now reporting some of those properties. And they reported a property that is being paid, but because of the amount and that just being added to the report, I had a 50-point hit. Now, if those 50 points mattered to me and I went to apply for financing, I wouldn't get what I needed. They don't matter because I was well over 750.
Right.
So it has a little bit of an impact, and at least I know it's there, but it makes no difference. However, if I was going for a line of credit or an SBA loan or equipment financing, not knowing where my credit is, both business and personal, would have smoked me. Okay.
How does
It's
one
not,
pull their how does one pull their business credit?
they can look it up, go into Dun and Bradstreet. You don't have to pay anything. Just go to dnb.com, literally dnb.com, put in your information, and you can look it up there.
Do they
And
need to do they need to like sign up for this beforehand? Do people need to have a history with it, or is it just an automatic?
it should be an automatic unless they haven't claimed the profile. And you could still claim the profile without spending any money. There's nothing you have to spend money for to have a business credit score. All right. So if you're listening to this and you haven't done that, you should go to DMB. You should also go on my YouTube channel and look at all the times I teach how to build business credit and follow those steps. All right. And make sure at any given point you know where your business credit is, where your personal credit is. Because if you don't, you do not have your shit together, and you're going to make your job operating and running a business that much harder.
Right.
Keith, what's one of the things in your line of work that you always see messed up?
Well, we can go as elementary as credit scores, and we can talk about what. Well, let's just say profit and loss statement, or we can even go more elementary than that and just say a tax return. But the profit and loss statement comes before the tax return, and obviously, through some recent findings, there's a huge need for accounting companies that do bookkeeping, right, and that provide monthly reconciled reports. Absolutely
Really?
blows my mind. So, and newer news, Tideland Consulting is going to be bringing a bookkeeping service to the platform so that we can offer said service. Um, and truly, like the profit and loss statement is a variable across the board, right? If you don't know your numbers, you can't plan for taxes. If you don't know your numbers, you can't plan for expenses. If you don't know your numbers, your ass isn't going to get financed anywhere, right? Because ultimately, the P&L is the dictator of what is going on in your business,
Yep.
right? And your asses may not need financing if you know your numbers. You might be sitting on a lot of money, but
Yeah.
chances are, 150 people, there's two people in the room that actually look at their profit and loss statement. The rest of society apparently just operates off of what's in the bank. Well,
Hmm.
you and I know that accounts payable isn't indicated on your bank statement.
Nope.
So
Neither is AR, accounts receivable.
the accounts receivable come in there. Right. And that's the only thing that matters, apparently. The hell with paying bills. So the idea of like, man, just really understanding and getting education on a profit and loss statement of all things.
Yeah.
And then allowing yourself to understand the balance sheet and the differences
Hmm.
of the two, right? So that's one big thing we push, and it's one thing that 9 out of 10 people don't have access to, right? And I don't know, man. Either we're the dumbest two business owners in Earth, and we haven't figured out how to create a business that people expect us to suck and it be okay. And no offense to any accountants or bookkeepers that are listening in, but here's your fair warning. You should probably start getting your people shit up to date and sent out to them monthly so that they can operate a business and you keep their
Hmm.
business. I mean, I talked to 4, 5 people today who are still waiting on June and July
Yep.
for cleaned books. I'm like, well, how does anyone make a really good business decision based on 4 month old data?
You
But
don't.
they don't, but they do. And I'll tell you, like, there's only so long that you can pull that rabbit out of that hat and operate a
Hmm.
business based on the balance sheet of your bank account.
Yeah.
Because at some point there's going to be a mad expense that comes by and swoops that cash, and then you're going to be like, well, what the hell happened,
Hmm.
right? So that's my big riff lately is like just getting these guys to understand that whether it be you, the business owner, that takes time to understand the numbers or delegate it, but someone in your team needs to have access to that data and needs to be able to bring it to your weekly meeting,
Yeah.
right? So that
Uh,
the idea is like, dude, if you don't have any money, you can't buy anything.
yep.
We gotta figure that
I'll
out.
give you a great example. Great example to back up Keith's point. I had someone come in and they came to me basically saying, "Hey, I'm really messed up right now. I need you to fix it. I need an SBA loan to bridge me through everything." Going through all their numbers, they basically did what Keith is warning about right now, and they only operated looking at their bank statement to see if they can afford things or not. Okay, and they clearly did this for a very long time. And I know it was a long time because by the time they got to me, I still don't have all the docs because they are not keeping good books, and I don't have everything I need to get them an SBA. But what wound up happening was this: their accounts payable kept ballooning, their AR kept ballooning, but not at the same pace as their accounts payable. And then they didn't realize that they were actually losing money on a lot of the bids as is. They didn't understand their numbers, they didn't understand their cost. And so they've been running 9 months basically making bids that they were losing money on.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's easy to have that happen when you don't understand, like he said, your numbers. What's your profit? What's your loss? What on each job? What is your break even, and where do you need to be to actually be in the black instead of in the red on these jobs? Okay. And so now he has a massive problem, and he can't even. He's working to get his books caught up just to get him to me, so I can get him out of this situation.
Right.
All right, which never would have happened if you just had a bookkeeper doing the books on a weekly basis and then updating reports. Okay, so those are two things: having your financials in order on a monthly basis and having a bookkeeper, and then also knowing where your credit is. All right,
Right.
two things that if every operator got their shit together and had those two, life would be a lot easier. You guys would be way more successful, and you can make wiser, better decisions for your business. I'm going to go a different direction here. Okay. And I want to talk about entrepreneurs who don't have everything they need to operate in good times and bad times. I see a lot of people coming in right now without access to cash. Here's what I mean. If you don't have, so every business in good times and in bad times, right now we're in bad times, we're in a recession. I don't care what CNBC says or anybody else. We are absolutely in a recession. The numbers back it up. They changed the definition so they don't have to say it's a recession. And I actually think it's just going to get worse from here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
However, in these times, you want more cash on hand than you normally have. The other thing that you need to have is access to cash. What's access to cash? Having a line of credit, because you can use it for opportunities, short-term uses, and emergencies. I would say that about 65% of the people that I see do not have an open line of credit today.
Yep.
And what that means is if disaster strikes and you need to go open a line of credit or get access to cash, a lot of times, because you don't have all those other things together, your credit, by the time you actually reach out and need a line of credit, your credit is already beat up, your cash flow is already beat up, and it makes it much more challenging to get a line of credit.
That's right.
If you have any takeaway from this, let's say you listened and you said, no, I know where my credit is, and you know what, Keith, I don't believe you. I actually operate using a P&L. All right, great. Well, guess what? Do you have a line of credit? Because if you don't, you need to get one set up, and you need to get it set up yesterday. All right? There's one more thing that I see all the time that needs to be fixed if you are running a successful business.
Yeah, I mean, liquidity and leverage are the two components to being successful.
Yeah.
Right? And to your point, I wonder how many people listening kick themselves in the ass for not being advantageous and in a place to win in 2008, 2009, 2010. Right? And all of us who weren't there, right, have said for the past 10 years, if this shit ever comes back around, I'm going to be ready. Guess what? Here we are, right? The reality is, go get a HELOC. If you own a home that has equity, get a HELOC. If you have access to private client services at the bank, get a 0% interest credit card.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have anything, go to nerdwallet.com and search for 0% interest credit card and get something that you can float. And the idea behind that, right, is kind of working your way up to be prepared to take a tax on opportunities that present themselves. And this isn't just an asset opportunity, but guess what? You not only, let's take over market share of our company. When the guys down the street go out of business, we need to be ready to take over their cut. We need to be ready to hire good employees that no longer have a job. These are big opportunities that people sleep on, right? Simply because they don't have access to the cash. They don't have access to the lines of credit. They don't have the access to liquidity. And this doesn't mean like go get, refinance, cash out your home. You certainly wouldn't go from a 2.5% interest rate to a 37% interest rate with home loans, right? But get a home equity line of credit that doesn't require that, right? And that's the quickest and easiest one for 99% of people that own a home that have equity, right? And so The idea behind it, to your point, is just to get yourself into a position to have the chance to touch the dollar and spend the
Mhm.
dollar. Here's another one. Go find hard money lending friends, people who have cash, who will lend it to you. Yes, it may be more expensive. The dollar may cost you more, but if their opportunity will float that cost, why wouldn't you use it? Case in point, I bought a house in Orlando, hard money, 15%, right? The profits was still good. I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to use my money. I'll use their money. We'll buy the house. It's still floating, still giving me a little cash flow. And then when rates do decide to come down, if and ever, I'll finance them out of it. Right. So there's advantageous ways, man. And you and I both know a lot of people who have bought a lot of real estate and a lot of businesses and have never used a dollar of their own money to do so.
Yep.
But it all starts with just having the ability to say, I got 4 or 5 buckets of cash that I can go touch today. 3 of them may be yours, 2 of them may be someone else's, but the reality is now you get to pick and choose what is the most advantageous dollar on my balance sheet to spend on this next project or whatever it may be that you're looking after.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's massive. What's something else that might not have to do with finances or credit that you see a lot of operators when they come make this mistake?
of not having liquidity,
No. Just any mistakes we see operators make.
taxes,
What was that?
taxes,
Yep.
piss poor attention to their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this is such of the blame on the operator, quote unquote, versus the CPA. But what we've realized in 15 years of doing business is that CPAs are reactive
Yep.
to whatever you tell them. And if you don't tell them anything until December 15th, they're not going to tell you shit until March 12th. Right?
Yeah.
So the reality is the other component that kind of plays into the liquidity side of this is that if you don't have any counsel or a financial planner or whatever you want to call the individual, if you aren't having tax conversations, profit conversations starting in January, you're missing the boat. Because instead of having a 2-week time frame to fucking shove shit down the pipe and spend money and buy the truck and go do this, now you've got 11 and a half months. And if you have that consistent conversation of the P&Ls and the profit every month, well, now I've got plenty of time to figure out what I want to buy that gives me the most tax savings and allows me to play the game the best. Right?
Yep.
And you know this. I mean, real estate,
Mm-hmm.
cost segregations, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. And then you and I know some very, very well-off people in the real estate world that don't pay any taxes. In fact, they get money back at times.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's I would say a strong second
Mm-hmm.
in the neglect category of a business owner.
Yeah. I got a great story for this. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. This ended a partnership, guys. All right. This is the first time I am saying this anywhere where it could be heard by the public. Okay. Very few people actually know this story, but I had a very, very successful marketplace or brokerage called Sprout Lending. And the main reason why my partner and I split is when we started, I told him I have a great accountant. If you get me everything, I'll have him review it, do the taxes and the whole 9 yards. No. I got it. I'm working on it. That was from the first day we started this partnership. Fast forward 4 years, okay, where I thought these were just getting done. Only to find out probably after we should have filed the third one that these weren't getting filed. Okay. And I'm sitting here and I'm talking to my accountant and he goes, no, we never filed anything for this. I'm like, how is that possible? Can you check if anything was filed? He goes, yeah, nothing was ever filed. So my partner never actually filed any of the business returns. I had to get every single statement, everything, and get them all caught up. And then I had to end the partnership. And here's what we found. And here's why I did it. One, while my partner had money, he didn't have assets. Okay, so if the IRS was coming after anybody, they were going to come after me and absolutely destroy me. They actually did not come after. We proactively reached out to them, said, "Hey, this is what happened. We messed up. We thought this was being filed. Here, we filed everything, but the amount of money that I had to pay to resolve that situation is not an average amount of money that someone would have laying around. Okay, it was a lot of money, and it hurt, and it could have been completely prevented had everything been done and all of our shit was together, and it wasn't.
Right.
It cost. It broke up a 7 approaching 8-figure company. Okay, broke apart that partnership, and essentially I had to cover everything and keep moving. So, guys, that is vital. Here's one other component of this, and I'm going to say it because it kind of bleeds into this. If you're an operator and you are have partnerships or you have a partner or multiple partners, I think one of the biggest things in running any business is communication. Communication between you, communication to your partners, communication to your team. The operators that communicate the best and the clearest will usually come out very far ahead, while people that are poor communicators will always struggle because their team, their partners do not know where you're trying to steer the ship. Okay, for a ship to go to its port, you have to have the right speed, the right direction, and everything has to be running smoothly. Without communicating where the ship's pointing, how fast the ship's going, the ship ain't fucking making it there, guys. Your team, your partners, your outside partners are exactly the same. Okay? And I can tell you that the people that I do the most business with, there's a reason I chose Keith, right? There's a reason we decided to build this project together, is because Keith communicates clear. I communicate pretty clear. If I don't like Keith, we might not always like each other's answers. However, the answers are clear and we will get through
Yes.
them. Okay?
Typically, you call me an idiot. Hey, listen to me. Okay.
Oh, but how many times have you worked with partners and you could tell right off the bat it's messed up? I'm not going to say the names, but there's a certain group, a certain two that I know quite clearly that they didn't communicate clearly.
Yeah, zero.
Yeah.
And here's the reality: like partnership thing too is like making sure that you have identifiable responsibilities,
Yep.
organizational structure, right? Your operating agreement. Those things need to be clearly identified.
Mm-hmm.
And what typically happens is this: Hey, Jonathan, I got a cool ass idea. You want to go do it with me? Sure. And then we go do it, and then 6 months later, we're like, "Fuck, we made $100,000. What do we do?" And you're like, "Well, that's my shit because I did all the work." And I'm like, "Well, it was my idea." And then we're in this fight like women, tit for tat. And then one of us leaves pissed off, and then talk shit about the other one until the day we die. And that's typically how those things go. The
Yeah.
reality is, if you have clear, identifiable responsibilities from the get-go, they're in the operating agreement as they should be. There's resources to go back and point, hey, here's my role, here's your role, and we stay in our lane and have the communication. Partnerships typically don't falter, right?
Yeah.
Unless someone does something stupid and starts stealing money or whatever the case might be. We all have seen that share. But again, these are three fundamentals. Three, right? Get your P&L and your balance sheet in order. Get access to capital for when the shit storm starts. And make sure that roles and responsibilities are clearly communicated between business partners, vendor client,
Mm-hmm.
customer, whatever the relationship is going to be. And if those three things aren't going, it's just a matter of time before your ass is filing a dissolution report with the state that your business
Yeah.
is in.
Yep.
And that's it. That's just the reality. Unless you're just a one-man show and you just need to make 75 grand a year and you don't really care about an organization and building a business, you got to have those three things in order.
Yep.
And if you don't know how to do it, there's YouTube that you can watch a plethora of free information on, or you can hire a professional to partner with. One of the two. And we all know what's the quickest and easiest way from point A to point B is hiring someone that knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yep.
Right? You can try to go spend all the hours off work working if you want and researching the YouTube, but the shit ain't gonna work. It's just not gonna work.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, those are the three fundamental building blocks if you're going to build anything sustainable.
Yeah.
Just is what it is.
I love it. Mic drop. Guys, listen, we're going to bring you a bunch of different content from running your business to pro America, what we should do to put ourselves in the best position, our families in the best position, our communities in the best position. We're going to bring you as much as we can. All that we ask you, just share the show. Just share it. We're not going to run ads. Just share the show. Get the word out.
And it doesn't have to be professional. Look at these two ugly asses talking shit.
Yeah.
Share. That could be your tagline.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be graceful. Just put us out there.
It's like the movie. You could just say we look like the movie Twins when we're standing next to each other.
Yeah. Except you're holding on to your hair, and I let mine go a long time ago.
I'm clawing on for dear life at this point. There's not much left.
It's looking great.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. By the way, if anyone has any question about who plays what role, you've never seen the movie Twins, okay? Because there's only clearly defined roles if you've met me and Keith.
Yeah, we communicate.
Yeah, because we communicate. All right, guys, we'll leave you with that, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much. Please share this.